Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Telling Tales. We make atmospheric role playing games here on the internet for your delectation, delight, and I suppose sort of slightly absent neutrality. Hello. This is the finale of Cincinnati Chronicles, our now quite long running World of Darkness anthology series. This is the final episode of our Changing the Dreaming arc and the final episode of the Chronicles in general. So I hope we're all excited, or at least relieved, that we have come to the end of our adventures in the World of Darkness, at least for now. So, before I start inviting on the players and we get into recaps and the like, let's get that tasty promo out of the way. If you check down below this video, you'll find a number of links. You'll find links to YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one of those sites. Please do check us out on the other one. You will find links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. If those are things that might tickle your fancy, please let them tickle you by going and having a look. We currently run 3 weekly series, although by the time the stream is over, that will be out-of-date information. But Mondays is typically Warhammer with the Monday crew. Tuesdays and Thursdays have been Cincinnati Chronicles, but there's currently no immediate plans to put something in its place, but watch this space. And Wednesdays is Simbaroom, our long-running Throne of Thorns campaign. We're currently on the Witch Hammer. Come and join us tomorrow and every subsequent Wednesday after that, except when we're not doing it, for more of that fun. We also run one-shots monthly, kind of short stories from various different settings and systems. The next one of those is on Saturday, September the 10th, and is going to be the Night of the Hogmen scenario for upcoming Forged in the Dark system Teeth. There's another one-shot in September as well, which is Johnny running space-based Call of Cthulhu. Not sure on the date for that just yet, I don't think. And if you want to watch us play all kinds of different systems, check out our YouTube, where all those one-shots are up for you to watch at your leisure. Promo. There we go. So, let's start wheeling on the Cincinnati Chronicles players for one last time. And they can tell us what happened last week. First up, it is Holly. Holly plays Rosen, our pesky pisky. Innocent in the grand scheme of things, and very guilty in a much more casual way. Holly, let us know how last week started.
Yeah, so we left off having been left with a van by Barnabas, who is the person who sent us on this quest, effectively. And we're driving into the center of the city towards a variety of interesting things that have been happening in Cincinnati in hopes of finding some escaped chimera from the menagerie. So Elena is driving us and is listening to the radio at the same time and detects some suspicious things going on, and starts driving towards where those have been spotted or heard. And as we're going towards that, we, out the side of the window, see a large mechanical pterosaur and some little lightning imps attacking a knocker, with a large crowd standing by watching it happen. A crowd of normal people, so they're just seeing someone running around in circles, waving their hands over their head. At which point, Rosen leaps out and throws, I think it was glitter and sweets, at the flying creature, which got that to malfunction and go away. I think Elena cast something to make people less interested, which meant that the crowd dispersed. And the knocker ran off, very annoyed. And I think that was it. In the meantime, Inchin was
having a
finding
conversation
with
a new friend. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Inchin, let's bring on the man behind Inchin. It's only Chris. Bloody Chris. Hey, Chris. So Chris plays Inchin, Sluar academic and minor noble. Chris, what friend did you make?
Oh, I met such a good friend. So I met a bun slash a bun with wings, uh, who is called Edward or Eddie to his friends, but never Ed. And initially, I went over and kind of struck up conversation with him because it's good to kind of get them to it's nice to maybe have one on side, being clearly twigged that this was a chimera pretty early on. Um, a very affable and friendly chimera who was the warden of the menagerie. But I get the subtle sense that he might be overinflating his station within the zoo slash prison where they were all released from. He was aware of the other actors or the other entities here. He was aware of Melahan. He claimed to have known Sir Harry, and was also well aware of the Azure Knight, and was kind of uh, claiming that he was kind of maybe a librarian or a ward or a secretary of sorts in the grand scheme of things. But he was a delight. Some of the useful information he gave us was that Melahan went into the menagerie, and Eddie kind of let slip that he was probably after his chimerical companion, or his 52 chimerical companions, which were a deck of playing cards.
I think you'll
Which
find
was
51.
51. Oh, for reasons that have
yeah,
yet to be
that have
explained.
yet to be explained. Yeah.
But and on what else did we get off him? And yeah, I think that was because that was then kind of we then kind of he had nothing else to do, so we invited him along on our journey. He kind of
That is
also invited
absolutely
himself along on the journey.
Yeah,
But
you are precise in that the reasoning behind him joining you seems to mainly be he has nothing else to do, and he seemed attracted to the notion of joining you on a quest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it was. I don't think it was him who prompted it. I think it was actually you guys who made the connection that if his chimerical companions are cards, well, now Cincinnati has a history with cards, specifically the Bicycle Card Company.
Well,
and
that was
their old
next. We got
factory.
that. Yeah, of course. Someone made a really good roll for that, didn't they?
Yeah, and their old factory is both disused and not too far away, which led to you heading there on the off chance that Menahan had headed there with these Chimera and Yasia, his sorcerer co-conspirator. Yeah, and maybe that's what happened next. I should also point out, just because I can imagine this being the case, when Chris says a bun with wings, just so people have it in their mind's eye, because I know that Chris would also have been very happy to have a bun, a muffin with wings, be a
maybe even
chimera
more
that
so.
was it more so indeed. But it is a rabbit. Eddie is a rabbit with wings. So let's bring on our next player to talk about the Bicycle Card Factory and what we found there. It's John. John plays Elena, creative satyr type. John, what was at the Card Factory?
The Card Factory was a very abandoned and rundown factory, which we sneaked into with varying amounts of success and or enthusiasm. Elena decided to try and climb the top of the clock tower because that's just where you'd hide, like if you lived in an abandoned factory with a clock tower. And they started journeying up when they were besieged, and in some cases stabbed by a small collection of sentient playing cards with very tiny but quite sharp weapons. I think Eleanor got stabbed in the shoulder, and everyone else fought theirs off completely successfully. So that's fine. And then they continued on to the top of the clock tower, where basically Menahan and Yasir were talking about murdering their hostage, the remaining squire, and how noble warriors are climbing the tower and obviously about to fight them.
Yeah, they
and
seem
then
to
I
think you are maybe the errant knights from the Order of the Golden Trail, which you aren't.
we're definitely not. But they were alerted to our presence and ran for it. Jumped through. Did you think they jumped through the stained glass window and like down a rope? Right?
Menahan broke the stained glass window and they clambered down on a rope. Yeah.
I think that goes to the next person.
That does
I'm
indeed
stepping
go
on someone's toes.
Absolutely. Well, let's bring on the next person. The last person to be introduced in the Cincinnati Chronicles. It's Inga, isn't it? Hi, Inga.
Hey.
Inga plays Rhea, Eshu Wanderer, and probably starting to regret that she wandered into all this.
No, not at all. It's all part of a grand adventure. All will be well. So these guys are trying to escape down the rope. I think we had a very, very miserable attempt at trying to pull the rope back up, but we are all very, very weak and could not cope with that at all. But we made a very poor effort there. So we ended up all kind of diving down. I think Elena had like great panache, like practically acrobatics down the way. Like it was
Scampered down.
Yeah, and the rest of us kind of made our way down with varying degrees of style, I suppose. They were kind of running off, and we managed to catch up to them kind of as they were trying to weave in about the streets. They've still got the other squire as well, kind of dragging along. And we caught up to them at the Spindrift Diner just as they were heading in. And so we go racing in, and I mean, I think there's been like a bit of a question mark for a little while about whether Menahan is, really redeemable or not, and like lovely Edward seemed to, be a bit sad that he might be, and Barnabas was upset at the prospect of it. He's definitely straight up evil at the moment. He seems to be like he was just mocking us and saying we're not warriors, and basically challenged us to a duel. Very eager to take on the fight. I guess realizing he probably didn't need to run away. But just as we're all looking quite nervous about this, fortunately a wonderful man comes through who we don't recognize as characters, but as players we recognize as Marshall from the diner, who turns out to be the Azure Knight, who kind of reveals himself and agrees to sort of take up the duel with Menahan, which is where we left off.
That is indeed where you left off, with Menahan looking somewhat taken aback and maybe a little bit frightened as the Azure Knight comes in. And I complained last time about botching his lines, so I will do them properly this time. Marshall steps through the door into the diner. The banality of his mortal existence sloughing off him like a snakeskin, holding the sapphire blade aloft, his own skin azure, his hair sort of a deep yellow. He is of the troll kith, which I don't think we've encountered yet in this story, maybe on purpose to make it impactful. And as he lifts his blade and faces Menahan, he says, "I am not a smart man, but I am a strong one, and I know right from wrong. Put up your blade." And it seems like it's all going to kick off. So let's go straight into the moment there at the Spindrift Diner. Menahan and Marshall facing off across parallel to kind of the counter of the diner. Yassir behind Menahan, still holding Briar in a kind of chokehold, belying his somewhat fragile-looking form. Briar has, I believe, one of the swords, the squire's sword from one of her dead companions, and she can't get a good hit at Yassir, but she's kind of thrashing back at him as this is sort of going on. Menahan seems to rouse from his momentary shock and fear, and takes a step forward, saying in a very cold, confident voice, "I suppose I should be grateful that you have returned. You shall meet your end at the cold iron of the Knave of Clubs." Marshall lifts the sapphire blade just a little more to pointedly set a guard and says, "No, Menahan, you are no knave. You are still just a spoiled child." Menahan lets out a snarl and leaps forward, and their blades clash with a ring that echoes around the diner. Their sword arms are moving kind of faster than you can see. It is very, very clear that they are both expert swordsmen and duelists. They seem completely oblivious to anything else that's happening. Yeah. Is anyone going to try and take any action?
The young lady with the other squire with the sword,
Briar.
Briar. What is their current condition? Are they free from Menahan now? He's otherwise engaged, or
no? They're still being grasped by Yasia. He is sort of dragging her backwards a bit. She doesn't seem to be able to get a kind of good swing on him with the sword, but it's definitely kind of like, keeping him busy, sort of dragging her back and dodging away from the blows. And as he does so, he yells, or at least as much as a Sluar can yell, at Menahan, "There is no time for this. The Baron of Jade would not abandon us to this fate. He must be holding the Khan's leash. Menahan! Menahan!" Menahan isn't even remotely listening. He is completely locked in, mentally and physically, to this duel.
We have space to act here, do we?
You
or
do
we have time to act.
Yeah. Yasia is like, he's on the completely other side of the diner from you, because he's been backing off since you first kind of came in. But cool. you can certainly take an action. Yeah.
Right. So my next question is, do we know Briar's name? Did we manage to get that from reverse engineering there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would like to do a cantrip, please. I'm going to use naming 2 to give Briar a nickname.
Okay.
And the way I'm going to do this is via a little rhyme that I will whisper, but will carry strangely audibly across the room.
Okay.
Something along the lines of slippery Briar, always a trier, never for the friar. And I'm going to give Briar the nickname of Slippery to assist her and kind of.
Does this give her like bonuses with trying to slip away from him and stuff?
Yes, it's kind of that whatever the name I give her is kind of that's kind of what it kind of in her own seeming adjusts to become that, I think, is the way it's put in. So basically, It probably just gives her a bonus to break.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
So
So
actor is Faye.
Yeah, actor will be, and she's a squire. She's a noble.
Okay, I'm going to be spending some glamour.
What is a squire a noble? Yeah.
Isn't it the first level of noble or something?
It is. Okay. Yeah. In that case, yeah, absolutely. She is a noble. So you're going to cast it wild, right?
Yes, I'm going to have to bump Faye by 1 point.
Bump Faye by 1
and Faye,
no
but
problem.
I need 2.
So I believe that costs just 1 glamour. Yeah, just 1 glamour.
Yep, ticked off.
And then that would be naming plus Faye. Starts at difficulty 8, gets knocked down by 1 because you're casting on a enchanted mortal or kinane. So not Kithane.
Is that a typo? It's a typo.
It must be a typo, right? Enchanted mortal or kinane. It must be a typo. So that knocks it down to 7.
I did use a bunk. The rhyming is part of the suit
absolutely.
Of the bunk.
Okay, and I would say that knocks it down by another 1, so it's difficulty 6.
Now, is this a willpower moment?
It's 3 dice. You were onto the last session, so
we are. Do you know what I think? I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend a willpower. I'm going to roll my 3 dice. There was no reason for me to roll my 3 dice. 2 successes.
Okay. Yeah, you cast that, and Briar starts, her eyes widen, and she starts wriggling even more, even because she is also Sluar, and Sluar are notoriously wriggly individuals who can escape from bonds. And she kind of almost seems to be kind of like curving in the middle as she wrenches herself away from Yasir. He sort of spits out a few words in a language you don't understand, and Briar kind of goes rigid as if being shocked, and then goes limp in his grasp.
Bah! Waste of glamour.
I mean, you got him to do it. Yasir is then going to, I think, no, well, let's give everyone else a chance to do something.
Does Gassier appear to be backing towards the door, like a rear door?
Backing towards a very large window.
I would like to try and get round the back of him.
I mean, to do that, you would, I mean, he has his back to a window. Oh, do you mean on the other side of the window?
No, I guess I meant more intercepting. I'm going to be
you can't get
straightforward
around the
and run.
back of him because there's nothing behind him but a wall and a window. You could try and go directly to him.
That's what I was getting at.
Sure, you can start forward with that, but he will get to act before you reach him fully.
I was also going to approach, and I was going to try my speedy thing again.
Sure.
What was that called again? Just basically the same as I did before. Quicksilver.
Sure.
For Wayfair. So the realm is it's me that I'm trying to speed up, so it's Faye again.
Faye.
And it's Wayfair. So and yeah, with the same little like runner's start thing that I had before and everything as well.
Sure. So I think that'll knock us down to 6 difficulty again.
Joke. 2 successes. Is that right? Oh no, sorry, 1 success. Yeah, I've got 2 ones. They cancel out the successes, don't they?
Okay.
Yeah, 1 success.
And both of you are kind of like dashing forward towards Yasir. Okay. How about Rosen? What's Rosen going to do?
I'm trying to decide between 2 things. So currently Yasir's like mostly focused on just trying to get out, or is he like focused on the fight to see if Manhattan's going to lose?
He's not really watching that anymore. He's just backing away with the presumed intention of getting out somehow.
In which case,
he's also now holding the limp Briar in front of him, like a kind of like up, like a shield.
Okay, I'm going to start trying to like move around the other direction, possibly towards the door that Marshall came out of. Because did that go to the kitchen? Is there like a sign on it
that actually seems to go to, it's kind of hanging open, and that seems to go to a sort of storage room with a actually no, just literally just a storage room with cleaning supplies and stuff in it.
Okay. And the door to the kitchen, I think last session they tried to open, was locked.
It is locked, and Menahan and the Azure Knight are kind of moving them. Jewel is sort of moving them towards it.
Moving towards that door. Okay. I'm just gonna stay put for now. I'm gonna see what happens. I'm not sure I've got anything that'll
kind
be
of lurking behind words constantly escape me in this series. I don't know what it is. Yeah, lurking behind a booth, and sure. So I don't think Elena will have a chance to get fully towards Yasir before what he does next, but I think Rhea stands a good chance. So Rhea, why don't you roll dexterity plus athletics, and let's call it a difficulty 8, but just one success will be enough to get up close to him as he's doing what he's doing. One success, that is fine. Then you are exactly flush with him as he pushes himself backwards, shattering the large window and like tumbling down to the parking lot, which is a full, this floor of the diner is like up on a set of stairs, like a concrete foundation. So it's, it's a good like 5-foot drop onto broken glass and concrete. I would say you got close enough that you can go with him if you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, go on.
Sure. Could you give me a stamina roll, please?
Two successes.
2 successes. And I'm going to say that was potentially up to 3. So I'm going to say that's 1 damage, and I will roll a die to see if it's bashing or lethal, because it could be the glass or it could be hitting the ground, right? It is bashing. So you hit the ground with a slight winding crunch. So take 1 bashing damage, please. Are you just bruised?
Yeah, that's the only damage I've taken.
Yeah. Yasir, for his part, I will just roll to see how he has done. Yasir essentially has landed on his feet. Guess he knew it was coming, and he is dragging the sort of groggily shaking her head and waking up Briar as he is like moving at speed towards a parked car nearby. As he does so, you can see that there is a familiar-looking brown van weaving along the road with some difficulty and traveling a little bit too fast, almost as if someone can't really reach the brakes.
Amazing. Do I have any chances for any other actions or anything, or?
Yeah, if you want to like spring to your feet and try and catch up with Yasir, you can definitely do so.
Before you do that, can I try and help out with, say, trying to catch up?
Yes, I wasn't actually going to try and catch up to Yasir.
Okay.
Would him staying more still help?
Sure. Yeah.
Can I just flag that I don't think you can see him?
I was about to say I'm going to dip out the door that we came in, since we're
sure.
basically at the doorway anyway. And if it's like in the car park, then the way I'm imagining it is it's literally out the door and then it's there.
Yeah, you are near. You are near the door, but it will definitely like take you an action, as it were, to get out.
Sure,
of that door
I'll go out and get.
You go out to try and get a view. How about Inshin and Elena?
I am barreling toward the window with my fully intending to throw myself through it.
Sure. So you're not kind of clambering down carefully. You're just going to pitch yourself through in the same way that Rhea did.
Yeah, speed. Although I think maybe I don't know if you want me to make a roll that I've kind of realized what the geometry of the situation is. But I think I think in my head, I'm hoping Inshin is hoping to do this in quite a cinematic fashion.
Sure. How about you, Elena?
Elena was doing much the same and trying to go for an action hero, full-bodied jump out, roll, and keep running.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you both give me then dexterity plus athletics rolls at difficulty 9? Because I think it's quite difficult to negotiate a broken glass window frame onto a pile of broken glass on concrete 5 to 6 feet below and not hurt yourself at all. But you could give a chance.
Do I get any advantage because I have hoofs and probably won't? Okay. Hooves.
Hooved animals notoriously immune to shards of broken glass on the floor.
I
do
not pass.
Look at that from Chris. 2
Very
successes,
good.
2 10s.
No, 3 successes. The other number was an 8.
Yeah, but it was difficulty 9 though, wasn't it?
Oh, you're right. Apologies.
Okay, well, let's deal with Elena first. Give us a stamina roll, please.
2, 3. No successes.
No successes. Okay. I am knocking the damage down a little bit because I think you know what's coming way more than Rhea might have done. But it is lethal for you. So you tumble through the window and come down on a pile of broken glass. And that stuff hurts. So take 2 lethal damage, please.
If I already have a chimerical damage, does this damage go in my real track?
If you
or does
look at your sheet, you will see that real and chimerical damage have different tracks.
Fantastic.
So yes, they are different damage.
Yeah.
And they have a different end result if you go far enough along. But whichever one has the highest penalty is the one you apply to the thing. Inshin, you wanted tell us how you action hero down to the parking lot.
Without wanting to overstay my welcome, given I don't have any dots in athletics, I think I just kind of maybe kind of do a single-handed vault over the window frame and get a surprising amount of distance and land deftly into a full-on sprint towards the assailant.
Absolutely. And then you can be kind of more or less flush with Rhea as you're both kind of running swiftly towards Ysir. Rosen, you kind of emerged out and are kind of, hopping down the stairs and now seeing all this that's down there. Ysir, for his part, has reached a parked SUV and has just straight up opened the door. You're pretty sure it's not his SUV, but it also didn't seem to provide him with any problems. It's that old pesky sorcererness coming into play again, I suppose. He is clambering in now with Briar and has kind of shut the door. We all have another action before he peels off out of the parking lot. And as he peels off out of the parking lot, he basically... He won't be dodging it because it's coming into the parking lot at the same time. A brown van with a large winged rabbit behind the wheel, which rockets into the parking lot and straight into a dumpster. And therefore no longer requires Edward to reach the brakes. Elena, you're probably the closest nearby, and you can just hear a kind of muffled, "Oh my goodness, what? I'm never doing that again." But Rhea and Inshin, well, everyone gets a kind of action. Elena, realistically, if you wanted to go after Ysir, you would only be able to reach the car as it's pulling away. Ditto Rosen, but it sounds like you might have different plans. Let's go for the people furthest forward first to see what impact they could have. Rhea and Inshin, you can reach the car by all means, but the door will definitely be closed by the time you reach it. But you could still do something. I don't know what you want to do.
What I was going to do as my next action was try a cantrip on Brea. Is that possible? Given she's been
yeah. You could still see her. She's kind of bundled into the passenger seat.
I was going to try giving her Quicksilver to give her extra speed or actions, depending on how she would want to use them.
Sure. Yeah, you think she's only semi-conscious at the moment, but you can do it if you want.
Yes, I will give it a go. She was able to catch a sword. That's
sure.
So she is Fae as well.
She is.
I have got 2 dots in Fae.
Yeah, that's good. That's all you need.
I think is what I need. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So 1, 2, that number of dice. Okay. I think she'll do a similar sort of runner stance thing, but with a bit of a flourish, kind of rather than actually getting up and moving herself, almost extend it out with her arms, as if to kind of
throwing. Yeah.
Over to Brea.
Sure, that sounds good.
Where does that leave us on difficulty?
I think, like most things, this will be difficulty 6.
Okay. 4 successes, which can be used either for extra speed or actions on turns as the person who has been sped up desires. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, each success grants the subject 1 extra action or doubles her movement speed on her next turn. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Chris, what is Inchin getting up to?
The car's still static, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the process of peeling off. I think I will execute another little rhyme. Oh, you power car, with all your trying, you won't get too far in the wonky wagon. And I will once again nickname the car this time to make it much harder to control.
Sure.
Because it is now
Absolutely.
the wonky wagon.
Okay. So
this is prop.
Prop. I can't imagine that you have like enough prop for it.
It needs to be prop 4.
Yeah.
Oh
prop
God,
4.
does it? Oh
Yeah.
my God, I thought it was prop 2 would have covered it. Okay,
Definitely
let me see.
not.
Is this? Oh,
I mean, do you think cars have no moving parts?
I was just not paying attention. I saw prop 2 and thought, yeah, I'll cover it. Oh God, that's so expensive. Okay, I'm gonna back off.
Okay.
That would be me down to 1 remaining glamour, and obviously that gets scary for Changeling.
Fair enough. What would you like to do in place of that then?
I would like to. Where is the lady Brenny?
Briar? She is bundled into the passenger seat.
The passenger seat. I imagine I'll get to the back seat first.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And I still have a sword. I'm going to try and get into the back of this car.
Okay, you're going to try and like smash the window of it or something like that.
I'm just going to see if the door will open.
Yeah, sure.
The door
like,
open
see,
for him.
Yeah. The door open for Ysir. Yeah, why not? You know what? That's an interesting question. Let's see if Ysir's magics left the back door open. I'm just going to give it a 50-50. They did not. Very targeted magics.
I wonder, do I have the wherewithal, and this is entering into the realm of split dice pools, to maybe pick up a piece of street debris and use it to make getting in the back window easier, and then get in the back window?
I mean,
that sounds like
you are splitting your pool into 2 actions is definitely something that would have had to have been declared at the beginning of the before you took a action, if you see what I mean. But if you're still there and you're flush and you've tried the door, I'm willing for you to like try and smash the window with like the pommel of the sword or something.
No, I'm going to stab the tire with the sword.
Okay. Big SUV tire, but let's see how you do. I think I'm fine with that. Can you give me a strength plus melee roll, please? At a difficult, I'm going to say it's a difficulty of 9 with a sword to stab like a big SUV tire.
I need help here, my friends. So here we go with 2 dice, difficulty 9. That's 2 4s.
There we go. The sword kind of just basically kind of pokes the tire. You're pretty sure it went in, but you're not hearing any kind of like hiss. You know what I mean? So you don't think you've actually punctured it. Now back with our other companions. Rosin, what are you deciding to do now that you can see everything going ahead?
I think I'm going to try and mooch either the steering wheel or the gas pedal from the car to land either in my hand or in my pocket. Now, the wording of mooch.
Sorry. What art is this?
So this is a Legerdman art called Mooch, level 2.
Okay.
Which provides changelings with a quick and easy method of collecting an item that catches their eye. So the system is I need to indicate the current owner, holder, or container of the object in question. Does a car count as a container for a steering wheel? I'm stealing the object inside the car, not like the car itself, but I'm still fine to use prop 4, given that I'm dealing with the car. Yeah, I don't need to see it when I cast the cantrip. It's just that I need to use the realm of the appropriate level for the object.
Can I spend willpower so this roll succeeds? Because I really want it to work.
I do think it's definitely going to be that prop 4.
Yeah, that's fine, because I've already got
Yeah,
prop 3, so I'll gladly
Okay.
spend. Yeah.
Spend a glamour. Okay.
So, as a group, which do we think would be funnier, the steering wheel or the gas pedal?
Funnier, I think it's got to be the steering wheel.
I think the steering wheel is more recognizable and ridiculous, and more likely to come off. Like, I would say a gas pedal is a part of the car, whereas a steering wheel can be removed.
Both are only connected by like a pin normally. So, yeah.
Though this is hilarious, I do feel like doing my thing point out. How concerned are you with the safety of Briar?
Given that it's currently a stationary vehicle, and like that's why I was suggesting the gas pedal, because then the car just wouldn't move at all.
Surely he could just put his foot on the. Surely he could just.
If
put
it's
his foot
America
on the
in
thing
the
it's on.
90s, it's likely to be an automatic.
I don't know. I don't drive. Holly, sorry.
It's likely to be an automatic. It'll only have the gas and the brake pedal.
But no, what I'm saying about the gas pedal is surely if you remove the pedal, there is still the thing the pedal is mounted on,
and it will still be.
Oh, yeah. It's about whether we're talking about just the platform that you put your foot on.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about the little. I'm talking about the pedal and the bit that goes up into the car.
Yeah.
This seems to be an insanely overpowered thing at level 2 to make any one thing disappear and appear in your hands.
It says object. I think it's up to you what that insinuates, really.
I would say, like, as someone who has been an occasional GM, like, I would I don't know what, like, I think steering wheel is definitely closer on this than the gas pedal. Like, on having an object within a container or part of the thing that is the container. But yeah, I guess cars are quite big, complex things.
You know what's
lots of little.
You know what is making me have double? Like, at first I was like, no. Mooch would have to be the car. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that gives me pause on that is that one of the examples is shoelaces.
Yeah,
I think the people want it. Chat's gone completely mad here.
Sure.
I just looked at how many things have been posted in the chat since that happened, and it's none. So,
well, gas pedals are like the shoelaces of the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Weirdly, I'm not sure I disagree.
I changed my mind. I think that's pretty legit.
I do kind of disagree that at the point at which you've been carrying, this would be affecting that the car would be stationary.
I mean, to be honest, even if it makes it basically uncontrollable, then that's fine to me.
Okay.
Because even if it's a manual car and he's just using the clutch, he's not going to be getting that fast without a gas pedal.
Okay, so what are we doing here? He said, stalling for time as he desperately tries to rethink the entire second half of this session.
You're welcome. It might not work, to be fair. So, but it will.
I mean, it probably will, because everything is like 6 difficulty, and you have a whole handful of dice. So.
And I could just use a willpower as well.
Yeah.
Given that I've still got all 4 and we're on the last session.
So that's spending a point of glamour.
Yeah. To get prop 4, and it's a legend.
And you're not casting it on anything enchanted, so you only get. Well, what are you doing for a bunk?
Well, I was about to say, for a bunk, I would like to perform one of my like little jester acts from doing various tiny functions for minor nobility while trying to steal all their stuff, which is to do several cartwheels followed by a couple of backflips, ending with just this at the car.
Okay. I mean, how long does that take?
To do a couple of cartwheels and 2 backflips, maybe 10, 15 seconds.
Okay. Then... Because I'm still going to say it's just a 1 because it's so.
Yeah, I was expecting a 1. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So that's difficulty 7.
Okay, cool. Now,
if I ever run Changeling again, no characters are allowed to have Legerdemain 2. That's insane. That is story breaking capability to just go, oh, everything. Like you could have taken Menahan's sword.
I could have done. That's what I was thinking of doing when he first came in.
So
but,
anything, anyone using anything is useless.
Well, to be fair, it's entirely based on your decision, and it's more difficult with enchanted objects.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now, do I want to use a willpower? Is the question.
Don't, please, for the love of God, don't. I've seen that look on Matt's face before. It's like
I'm not bitter at Holly. I'm bitter at whoever designed that and put it at level 2.
There's a reason this game doesn't get played a super large amounts of time.
That's right. I'm going to leave it entirely up to the dice.
Yeah,
because that's the kind of thing that Rosen would want anyway. So yeah. Difficulty 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's 4 successes.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be wrapping this one up real quick, guys. No, that's not true. So let's actually think this one out. And again, as someone who does not drive, so if someone had got in a car, started the car, and hammered the gas pedal, and then the gas pedal vanishes,
it would probably go. Ugh.
Would it?
It would go.
Here's my question: how does the gas
and then start coasting?
Yeah, let me finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
So the gas pedal connects to presumably a fuel injector, whatever it is in the engine, right? If the gas pedal suddenly goes, like it hasn't released, it's just gone. Whatever is in the engine is going to do one of 2 things. And I'm sure someone who's super expert on engines, and maybe one person here is, I don't know, maybe someone in chat is. Okay, yeah. So, are you?
I did mechanical engineering as my degree.
Okay.
I studied internal combustion engines. And
okay,
cars.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, presumably, what will happen is either the fuel injection will stop completely, or whatever is injecting the fuel, and I'm making up these terms, will be locked in place, and the car just fucking goes at full speed and can't stop going at full speed. Unless the brakes are applied, presumably.
The default of most cars is that if the throttle is released, or in this case removed, the actual throttle valve should close. Because otherwise the throttle could like get locked open on the motorway or something, and then the only solution would be to like knock it out of gear, which does happen. But yeah, it should be, if it's like a fully functioning car with like safety features, which again in America in the mid-90s, I'm willing to have some leeway on that.
But would it, and I'm actually just interested now, I'm not arguing any case. would it be different if the component literally vanished?
Now that you do have an excellent point, because that's not really something you'd account for in terms of safety diagnostics.
As the only
but
person
generally,
here,
it's the component, like the actual throttle valve, which has the safety feature. You don't just put like a spring on the pedal.
So as the only person here who knows stuff about engines, what percentage, what would you say is a fair die roll to see, does it come to a halt? And obviously the answer is actually 100% either way in this speculative SUV we're talking about. But what would you say is a fair representation of, on one hand, the safety feature kicks in because blah, 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 or on the other hand, in this unknown SUV, like, and this completely unknown scenario of a component just fucking vanishing, that, you know, what would you say is a fair either way roll of the die? So
this is a completely flat parking lot, I'm assuming, because it's America. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And it's a heavy SUV, so it's got a fair amount of momentum.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd just go 50-50, to be honest, because it will keep coasting just at a very low speed.
It won't just stop immediately.
Yeah,
but like, my question is,
as soon as it gets to a curb, it should stop, though. That's the thing. So it depends what direction the car.
Even if the fuel is carrying on pumping in,
if it's not enough gas to get it over like a decent sized curb, which it will require pressing the gas pedal normally. Then yeah, it'll probably stop if it comes to a curb. If it's a pothole, it probably won't stop.
Okay.
I love how in depth we're getting with this.
We seem to have very much changed our. I was basically going to roll for whether it carries on going at full speed and he's struggling to slow it down, or if it grinds to a halt.
It will grind to a halt eventually. It's just whether it goes into a road to do that, given that we're on a diner on the edge of a road.
Okay, I'm not bothered rolling a dice to see if he moves an extra meter or not. I was just trying to see if a component vanishes completely. There's a possibility that he just keeps going at full speed and can't stop going at full speed.
If it's a dodgy old American car, it might do. Call it 10%.
10%.
Because that'd be fun.
Okay, so that'll be fun. All right, I'm going to roll this, and if it comes up 10, 10 for me.
How many like dodgy cars are there in Cincinnati in the mid-90s?
In the World of Darkness.
In the World of Darkness, 20%.
So, okay, we'll adjust it to 20% then. Well aware that this has taken at least 10 minutes too long already.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, a 9 or a 10, and this car just starts going uncontrollably forward, and you see it can't even brake it, right? It's fucked something in the engine. 1 to 8, we come to a grinding halt, and I mean the story. No, I am a veteran. I can GM my way out of this. Please be not. That's a 1.
That's fine with me.
The SUV slowly rolls forward and comes to a halt in the road. So, I think what happens then is that you see it opens the door, gets out, and starts running down the road.
Perfect.
With Breyer or without?
Without Breyer. No, he's not bothering now.
Cool.
So I think my immediate priority is to go and get Breya, make sure she's okay.
Okay. Breya is kind of like sort of seems to be woozily coming in and out of consciousness in the passenger seat, and sort of with an odd sort of like she's shaking her head, shaking her hands. But doing it in a really weird, fast way, like she's having some kind of odd chimerical fit.
I think I'll kind of offer her some kind of everything's going to be okay. He's gone. And I'll try and bring her out of the car and away from the road, back to our car, back to the now crashed the van.
Yeah, sure. What is everyone else doing?
I was climbing to my feet and pulling open the van door to make sure Eddie's all right, and
Eddie
also the van.
Eddie is indeed all right. He's kind of sprawled back on the driver's seat, just sort of flapping his paws a little bit in the air and going, "Oh, goodness gracious me!
Good job, Eddie."
Oh, thank you. Did I save the day?
Yes. Yes. Well done.
Okay.
So I'll put our charge in the back.
Whoa. Wait for other people to see what they're doing. Rhea? Rosen?
I was going to say I think for a split second torn between trying to chase after Yasir, but I think at the last second I'll turn around and head back towards the window and see if I can see through and see what is happening in the diner.
Menahan and Marshall are out of sight. You see that the door to the kitchen behind the counter is like swinging open.
I will pause there. I won't go wandering off alone, but see what the others are up to first.
Okay. Rosen?
Yeah, she's just going to be kind of amazed that worked, and is just going to like flip the pedal in her hand and then just like look around to see if anyone A, saw that, and then B, what they're doing, and whether Eddie is all right as well, having just seen it crash into.
Sure. So what I'm hearing is that no one is going after Yasir.
I think I'll be like ready to do it, but I'll be looking to see if other people are going as well, because Rosen knows that she can't handle him herself.
My next action was going to be to very gently push Eddie out of the driver's seat. And if the van is drivable, drive at least in the direction that Yasir went.
Okay. Eddie flops onto the area, like in the back of the van, with a sort of furry plopping noise. The van, it has to be said, is fully like crashed into this dumpster now. But you definitely are going to have to reverse it and deal with quite a bit of clunkiness to get it actually turned around and ready to go.
Got it. Maybe not.
You do it. It's certainly a lot faster than running.
Then yeah, fair enough.
So as Elena is doing this, Rhea, what are the other three of you kind of gonna do?
I mean, I guess if we see Elena doing that, then I'll run back and see if I can hop in the van as well.
Bundle our charge into the van, into the back of the van, and try and make sure she's okay.
Yeah, I will be getting in the van, but until like the last possible moment, I'm going to be outside, just keeping an eye on which way Yasir is going, so that I can direct afterwards.
He's kind of traveling eastward. I mean, he's not so fast at running that. Or maybe he is. Maybe he's got Wayfair as well. Problem solved!
He's solved! We're back on track, ladies and gentlemen.
Rosen, you look... For a second, I was like, oh, they're just going to run him over with the van. Just like, flatten the guy. You kind of look at him kind of down the road, and you see that he's kind of, as he's like running, he's fairly spry for this old kind of wizened slewar, but he sort of seems to be kind of doing something with his hands as he's moving along. You see him like throw something, kind of scatter it up into the air around him, something that looks like maybe sort of about 100 silver pennies cut into very small shards. They kind of glitter in the air, and the light from the street lamps for a second and scatter on the ground. And then he starts to run real fast in a sort of easterly direction, which you lose sight of him quickly, but you're fairly sure you know the rough direction he's going. Pardon me.
Okay, cool. Well, I will relay that to Elena as soon as I dive into the back of the van, which I'm assuming is speeding off from the car.
Yeah, it's kind of like peeling out from and you can, the back of it's kind of pulled to one side, and you can
Matt,
dive in and land next to Edward, who's sort of.
so if so car was a prop 4. If I only have prop 1, can you just remind me of how it works in terms of using glamour to boost the, if when you've got gaps? Is that basically using a use of 3 glamour to make up that difference, or is it?
I think we settled last time that it says 1 glamour for each realm cheated. It doesn't say each realm level or realm dot cheated. So I think it's just for every single type of realm that you have to cheat in some way, either because you don't have it at all or because it's a higher level, you pay 1 glamour. So in other words, if you already have prop and you want to affect a bigger prop, it's 1 glamour to do so. That's how I'm reading it.
Okay. Can
Might be
I
wrong.
try casting Quicksilver on the car once on the van once?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I think but even if I'm boosting up, I still only get the lower number of pips for affecting props. So I get fewer dice.
Yeah.
Can you spend willpower on these as well?
So, yeah.
I'm gonna go for a willpower just to guarantee 1 success.
Sure. And what kind of bunk are you using?
I will.
Can't use your sprinter's pose.
No, I can't really, can I? I'm gonna be really sad and pathetic. I'm gonna like squat myself down next to Elena as though like in the passenger seat and do like a really like elaborate kind of as if I'm gonna get the car started and starting to drive it off, but it's cool completely mimed because I'm just sat next to her.
Yeah, you're like miming a little race car thing happening. Yep. Yeah, sure. Yep. So that's gonna be that's just a 1 for sure. So that's a difficulty 7, I think. Yeah, difficulty 7 and 1 glamour.
All right, that is 3 successes plus my 1 from willpower, so 4 successes.
So that's 4 extra actions, really, isn't it?
Yes. So every success doubles your speed or grants an extra action.
So who's driving this?
Elena.
Back to you, Holly. If a van is just a battered old van is peeling out of this. Like how fast do you think it's going? If it's kind of going, someone's starting up fast and peeling out, I'm going to say probably no more than like 20 miles an hour, right? Like
no more than 20. No more than 20.
So what I'm going to do is going to roll to see whether it's between 15 or 20 and like where it is in that range. It's about halfway. So let's say it's 17 miles an hour. What's 17 times 4, John?
About 70. It's 68.
So in a battered old van, you are now going at 70 miles an hour along admittedly, it's an American city center, so it's quite broad, wide roads and stuff, right? And not like lots and lots of tight corners. But I'm going to say that's bad.
It's unexpected.
Difficult to cope with. But fortunately, you've got 1 point in drive. So let's have a wits plus drive roll, please. And again, our car expert, Holly, how difficult would it be to suddenly be going at 70 miles an hour after going at 17?
To go from like 15 to 70 like that? Oh yeah.
Horribly difficult, right?
If you're going straight ahead, maybe. If you're like weaving in and out of traffic,
there's not much traffic at this time of night, but
even if there's a thing that
it's rough, right? It's rough. So I think that's a difficulty 9, please, John.
Okay. Well, I only rolled I rolled one less dice because I'm injured.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I did spend a willpower
Smart.
and got that one success.
In that case, everyone in the van, it better be holding on to something, because the van is now pitching forward at 70 miles an hour. It's vibrating like it's going to come apart, like an ill thought out space shuttle leaving the launch pad. You are rocketing towards an intersection where Ysir has kind of like, you can see him because you're catching up with him. But he's like turning off on this intersection. So now you've got to like desperately try and make the turn on this intersection at 70 miles an hour. How long does this last for, Inga?
Oh, that's a good shout.
Say.
Quicksilver. I think it's just for the next turn.
Oh, okay.
Yes, each success grants the subject one extra action or doubles the movement speed on her next turn.
Okay, okay. So what I'm going to do then, I'm just going to make you roll to make that turn as the van is admittedly slowing down. So that's a help. So could you make another roll, please, of dexterity plus drive difficulty 8 to turn this intersection without, crashing into something?
Just in case it comes up as well. So something an object that gets sped up or a hurled object. It does say they treat successes on the activation roll as bonus dice on the damage roll if they strike a target. So just in case we end up hitting something. And also, I was 100% holding on to an imaginary mimed steering wheel, so I have definitely gone flying.
Yeah, so you're like on the back of the van. Eddie is like a furry bundle of like rabbit and wings at the back going, somebody hit the brakes.
There is definitely a shouting of some variation of Jesus take the wheel, and I'm spending a willpower point.
Sure.
3 successes.
Hey, pretty good. Well then, you know what? You round that corner as the van is slowing to a more reasonable speed. Not gently. And the back wheels definitely kind of like Tokyo drift a little bit. But ahead of you, you see Ysir, and you see him. You've made it round the corner in time to see him. You also haven't crashed, which means that you can, properly perceive what he's doing, which is that he is climbing over a large sort of stone and metal railing into what appears to be, you know where you are. He's climbing into Eden Park. Which isn't too far from the diner, so it's all right. It's fine. All I had to do was randomly give him an art. To be fair, I didn't know what arts he had. He could have had Wayfarer all along.
We would never have known.
You never have known. I should have just gone. I should have played
Supposed
it off.
to not
Should have been
tell
like,
us this
is
bit, yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Is there a car entrance to Eden Park?
No.
Okay, then I'm going to drive as far as the foot entrance of Eden Park. Probably.
There's one nearby.
Also, shouting over my shoulder, what? How? Why were you backseat driving? Backseat driving is bad, whether literal or magical or metaphorical. Ria, I need to be in control of the vehicle at all times, Ria.
But that was so much fun. Have you never been on a roller coaster?
I've never driven a roller coaster.
It's the first time for everything.
I put on the handbrake and come to a complete stop. Well, I come to a complete stop and then put on the handbrake.
Sure.
And then get out of the van.
Sure. So you're by the foot entrance. It's not too far from where he kind of clambered over the railing, but presumably he couldn't even wait that long. You can see him over a kind of patch of open grass. He is kind of like still running forward, but definitely sort of limping and like hunched now as he's sort of trying to make his way forwards. He also has what appears to be a guttering orange flame hovering over one outstretched hand, and you're pretty sure you can hear him cackling maniacally.
Oh, that's not good when they laugh.
Just for continuity's sake, also, it sounds like it's quite a way over in a different direction in the park, but you can hear what the sounds like the revving of a lot of motorcycle engines and indistinct clattering music being played out boom boxes.
How
Chris is like, oh, fuck those.
No, I watched the vampire.
Okay.
I did my research. How is the young lady whose name I keep forgetting? Because while I did do my research, I'm also still terrible.
Sure, Briar. She is basically crumpled up with Eddie in the back of the van and is sort of kind of woozily looking up and saying, what just happened?
Listen, my dear, you either have to come with us now or stay with the bun in the van. But decision time is now.
Where are we?
We're in Eden Park. You see her is ahead of us. We have to hurry.
I'll stay here.
Then I will relieve you of your sword.
The Khan. I heard them talking. He said if they needed to come here, they should bring a red flower.
Okay, that should be. Fire is the red flower. Oh, nice try, but I read the Jungle Book. Okay, let's go.
Okay, are we kind of leaping out of the van and making our way across Eden Park after you see her?
We need a torch. We need to make a torch. The flame is not just for decoration.
Does the van have a cigarette lighter?
Yes.
Then I will grab kindling off the floor, whatever, or twigs, and
sure.
try and set it.
I'm going to ask for a roll here, and it's a roll I'm going to forbid the use of willpower on.
That's fair.
I don't think willpower should help with whether the objects are there or not. If you see what I mean. So can you roll wits plus investigation, please? Difficulty 9 on whether the components of a torch, of like a dungeoneering torch, are there in the back of the van.
Yes.
You seem to think you were about to do some kind of... You look like you had a solution.
I was debating setting my sketchbook on fire. But I figured that would probably burn a bit too quickly.
But you still need something to, I think it's possible, which is why it's a 9. There are like cleaning supplies and maybe a broom handle or two, rags.
Oh. It's -1. Or is that just for physical things?
You know what? I'll let you off with the -1 here because it's just more interesting than me rolling a die for chance.
What about, we do have, there's fuel in the tank. We've got clothing for rags.
Oh, just proper MacGyver it.
Was the difficulty 9 or 8?
You know what? I talked myself into 8 because I was thinking about all the things that could be back in the back of that van. So take an 8.
1 success.
Yeah, all right. There's a broken broom handle. There's rags. There's turpentine. There's a cigarette lighter. It's going to take a couple of minutes to do it, to be fair, I think. But you could definitely do it and get a nice fiery torch. Yeah?
Yep. Let's go for it.
Okay. Yeah, Elena has a torch in hand. I'm assuming the other 3 of you are waiting for this.
Yeah, I think on balance, it's not sensible to I can see that going very disastrously if I try and set fire to things after detecting.
Yeah.
From the fuel
I
thing.
was going to offer assistance, but Elena does seem to know what she's doing, so I will let her proceed, even though I have
can see
more dots
Rhea
and
starting to
stuff on his
unscrew
survival.
the cap on the thing, and then yeah,
Yeah, just like
see Inshin think, and then go, oh yes, I'll think better of that too.
maybe we shouldn't shove rags into this fuel tank and put fire nearby. Yeah.
I also say to Briar before we leave, if we're not back in 15 minutes, get back to the. Can you drive?
No.
Whatever. Don't look at me like that. All right, never
Edward
mind.
kind of, who's now like, in the back of the van, like on his haunches, kind of like cleaning his wings and his ears a little bit with a back paw, says, "Oh, I could drive, dear lady. Remember, I drove it here,
Right.
and it'll be even better with the young squire here because she can press the pedals."
New quest. If we're not back in 15 minutes, you get back to the castle.
I solemnly take this accord with Everett. He seems like he's going to be going for a while.
Bye, Eddie.
Bye.
I love him so much.
There we go. You make your way across the dark grassland towards the trees, which seem to rear up in the night ahead of you as you approach them. And as you enter into them, fortunately, the torch is kind of like lighting your way because they seem oddly dense for trees in a parkland. And definitely those of you, probably all of you, have been to Eden Park before, and this does not seem to tally awfully well with what you remember of it. Is anyone making any other kind of preparations or doing anything else on their way through the trees?
I have a spare sword. Who will take it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rhea will take it if no one else is, but she was pretty useless before. But
I don't think I can manage a sword and a torch.
The torch may prove to be yet more important. Take it, Rhea. Point the end first.
Oh, first into them, not me. Oh, yeah, gotcha, yeah.
That just worries me as to what would happen if Rhea hadn't made that leap. Of course.
This explains why she was doing so poorly before. She was trying to hold it by the blade and wangle the handle.
Yeah. Use it as a hammer. This
valid
warhammer
technique.
really hurts my hands. So, anything from anyone else?
I'm just trying to be as sneaky and quiet as possible.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we let's have a roll from the least stealthiest person and the most stealthiest. Let's have a roll from the most stealthiest person. Let's give you the chance to take the lead. I think that's probably Rosin, right? What's your stealth at?
Stealth is 3 and then Dex is 5.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone else has a pool of 8. So why don't you give us a stealth roll, standard difficulty, and let's see how stealthy the group is being with Rosin acting as a diminutive scout.
5 successes.
The only sound as you're all navigating through these trees is the crackling and guttering of the torch in Elena's hand. And as you move forward, you feel that not only are these trees larger and odder than you thought, the underbrush is growing packed. The plants and the trees seem to have kind of odd, unfamiliar shapes to them. You can hear insect noises swelling to the degree that they start to drown out the distant sound of motorbike engines and boomboxing. You hear odd animal noises and scurrying in the underbrush. including at one point what seems like a small tribe of howler monkeys starting up not too far from where you are. It's really quite odd, but not quite as odd as the sudden piercing scream that erupts from somewhere ahead of you in the jungle that is then cut off abruptly.
So that's you see, right? So we can go home, right?
Let's just hear her, right? We can go home, right?
Don't we have to see to be sure?
Oh God!
And see if there's like anything to like, if there's a, kind of the sort of poke your head around the corner, like if there's any. It might not even be close enough for there to be anything, but
you don't think it was close enough to be able to get a peek. You think if you want to see, you will have to carry on forwards. I'm not railing you. You can try and you could try and get out of here if you want. If it was Ysir.
Curiosity is a powerful driver.
It kind of sounds like if it was you say that the fire maybe didn't do an awful lot.
Did he have any?
He had like a flame in one hand.
Or the fire's a trap and we actually have to come without a fire to be hidden. I don't know. Rosin, how brave are you feeling? Would you go a little bit further ahead?
You turn around and see Rosin like literally tucked behind Elena's legs. Just like
we have to keep going.
Up to you.
Rhea will take that as total validation, but also acknowledging that Rosa maybe doesn't want to be up ahead, and Rhea is not especially stealthy, but definitely, by the sounds of it, the most curious. So I think she's going to start slowly trying to sneak ahead a little bit further.
Yeah, if Rhea's going forwards, Rosin's just going to like sneak up and like hold her hand and just go, if we're together, it makes it less scary. Follow me. And it's just gonna like sneaky.
I'm so sorry if I've killed adorable Rosin.
So is everyone going with Rhea and Rosin?
I take Rhea's other hand and offer like the torch elbow arm to Inshin.
Oh, I regret to inform you all that I'm far, far too cool to hold hands.
That's why you got the elbow.
Absolutely. So hand in elbow in Inshin, you make your way through the trees forwards. The shadows growing longer, the smell from deep in the menagerie starting to drift into your senses, and then you step out into a glade under a bright starlit sky, really quite unlike the sky over Cincinnati tonight. On the matted grass ahead of you are several patches of, under the starlight, what looks like some dark stain over the grass and the earth, and a few shreds of a dark robe like fabric that you're pretty sure is very similar to what Ysir was wearing. Over on one side of the glade, not far from you, is a large rock kind of overcrop rearing up like a hillside in the middle of the park with a large dark entrance to a cave in it. There is a faint crunching sound from within, and also that kind of stops as you enter the glade, and you hear what seems to be kind of wind whistling in and out of the cave for a moment, until you somberly all realize in the same moment that it is the sound of a colossal pair of lungs breathing in and out like a gale coming from the darkness.
I
shake
back
Ree's
away?
hand and back away.
If that is possible.
Yeah. As you start to back away from the cave, a voice comes from it. A deep, rich, oddly cultured sounding voice, seemingly disembodied as it comes from the darkness. All paths in the jungle lead to the tiger's den, little cubs. Won't you stay and talk? My hunger's not quite returned yet.
I think this. So there's a formality to this that's kind of tweaked Inchin. Like this is now kind of gone fairy tale mode. So Inchin will want to kind of approach it on the same level because that's what a noble should do.
Mm-hmm.
So Inchin will kind of take a step forward and go. And if we should want to leave the jungle, can an agreement be reached?
Well, perhaps we can talk about that in a little bit. Are you not curious as to the fate of the one you pursued?
We see you have kindly stored his clothing, and we thank you for that.
Most curious. He seemed to think that a small, flickering red flower would protect him. And also that this Baron of Jade was somehow affiliated with me. I say strange because this Jade Baron was here mere moments ago and told me you were coming. I would say he perhaps is not looking after the welfare of this sorcerer as much as he thought.
Is there anything?
Can I roll intelligence plus not getting eaten to get out of the situation, please?
I really wish I'd stacked more points into that not getting eaten skill. Yeah.
I really wish I'd revised the Rudyard Kipling collection this morning.
I suppose. What I want to do is build a bigger fire.
Sure.
But I can't signal that without vocalizing it. And
sure, yeah.
I don't really want to tell him that, and I'm not sure I can gesture. Oh, maybe I can. Maybe I'll just be like...
There's an awful lot of flammable stuff nearby because you are in a jungle. So it's perfectly possible. Are you looking to gather something?
I think because I'm not in charge of the torch at the minute, so I'm just maybe going to gesture to Elena to kind of just set fire to stuff. I don't know. I'll make some kind of roll. Maybe a performance roll might work.
Yeah, sure. Well, why don't you make that roll? Why don't you make a manipulation plus performance roll to see if you get
a bad dice pool.
Get that sense across. I just say standard difficulty. Go on, Inga.
Out of interest, just thinking through if things start to be getting set alight, it is what does a fire count as if I were to potentially try to increase the speed of a fire? Or would it? I guess would it be like seen? Like you can? Could I basically help the spread of the fire go faster?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I wonder if the realm nature has a thing for
I was
elements.
wondering.
Oh yeah.
Base elements.
Yeah,
Level
it's
1
nature
campfire.
Yeah.
Okey-doke. And presumably seen or something for it's around the area.
Yeah, if you want
Yeah.
to use that to like help, then
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I'd
I
say
mean,
so.
I haven't. Oh, I've got one in scene. Sorry, but I've got none in nature.
I'm not sure you really need it if you just want to increase like a flame.
Yeah, it just says, well, the nature, it references that you might need the scene realm, but it only mentions it for air because it's hard to quantify air. But I think it's when you've got fire, you can just quantify fire as.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That's a good point. Nature makes more sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll see what happens anyway.
Sure, absolutely. How did your roll go, Chris?
3 honking successes, friends.
Okay, so you definitely, Elena, you definitely have the impression that Inshin thinks you should start setting fires. As this kind of karaoke is going on, however, the voice carries on from inside the den. There is a sort of the crunching sounds have stopped, and there is a sort of slobbery smacking sound for a second before the voice says, "Well then, it seems to me you have 2 choices. The choices anyone has after seeking out the tiger in his home. Stand and fight, as your Sir Harry did long ago, or flee for your lives with the possibility that at least one of you might make it back to the safety of your stone walls. You likely should just choose to run from the start, cubs. Everyone runs from the Khan in the end. Would you like a count of 10? The Khan is giving you a choice. Stand and fight or run.
I think. Yeah, okay. Rosen's got a friend nearby, which is making her a little bit more plucky than she would otherwise be.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to step forward and say, do you not want to have any entertainment before your dinner? That is the standard practice, I believe. You might prefer a song or just a bit of light music.
My dear, your running is the entertainment. 1.
I start setting fires and also retreating.
Yeah, sure.
As soon as we see that, I realize it's kind of maybe not just speeding up the fire. I don't know if this is separate to that or part of the same thing. We haven't done this yet, so I'm a bit shaky on the rules on it. Unleashing. Can I try unleashing to just burn everything, burn it all down? To additionally bolster the spread of the flames?
Yeah. Do you have 2 points of glamour available?
I have got exactly 2 points of glamour left.
Okay. God.
We haven't done the unleashings, and we haven't really.
Yeah. I'm literally on the page though. Weirdly,
like that. So
already.
Yeah. I think it says it's also they're not like restricted by the realms.
No, you're not. It's okay. I think I've got it. If the roll succeeds but garners a number of successes equal to or fewer than the character's art rating. Okay, right. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah, sure. Elena, you just start. I don't think you need to roll to set fires here. It's a jungle. There's lots of underbrush nearby, and trees and all sorts? Is the intention just to start poking it into places?
Yes, pretty much. And I think if I can, I would also use it as a bunk to help me cast Flicker Flies on. I'm going to specifically cast it on Rosin, I think. And I'm going to try and instill a sense of survival instinct, self-preservation, courage,
Sure.
that kind of thing.
Sure. The counting is continuing from inside the cave as this is going on. 2, 3. I'd run if I was you. So why don't you roll that bunk, John? And Rhea, why don't you roll? So for the unleashing, here's what happens. The first thing you do is spend 2 points of glamour and gain one in nightmare. You then take your dice equal to your glamour rating plus a number of dice equal to the nightmare rating, which will now be 1, and roll that at difficulty 7.
Sorry, so that's the normal. Sorry, that's the current glamour rating, not the like.
No, it'll be it'll be your overall rating.
Okay, so I'm basically on 1 then, because I've got my 1. Oh, my overall rating, not my current.
Your original glamour rating.
Okay, so that's 5 plus my nightmare, which is now 1.
Mm-hmm. This should probably happen after the actual art roll, but let's do it now because I'm looking at the page.
Yeah. Do you say 7?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 3. 3 total. 3 of those are actually 10s, if that makes any difference.
I don't think it does because I don't think this can explode. So okay, that's fine. Now, let's roll for your actual cantrip. So what is this? The Quicksilver again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wayfair one.
Which is Wayfair, right? How many points do you have in Wayfair?
4.
That's good for you. Because if you roll more on unleashing than your level in the art, it's out of control. It goes really out of control very fast. So that's a positive. So tell me what bunk you're doing. And it's going to be difficulty 6 if you do at least 1 bunk.
Yeah. I think she is going to I guess kind of like just really kind of move almost like with the starting like with the flames, and like as the flames are building, just kind of like really like almost like a kind of like dance, I guess, like that is like was like modern dance or whatever, interpretive dance.
Sure.
Following the
Time
flames,
dance.
like, faster and faster, like almost into a bit of a
bit of a time dance.
Yeah. It's like the time dance. If only she knew.
If only she knew. So you're doing that. John, how did your roll for casting the survival cantrip on Rosin will, if you do at least a 1 bunk, it's going to be difficulty 5, I believe.
That's still 3 successes.
Okay. So is that basically 3 extra dice to survive-y type stuff for Rosin?
I think it is. I guess it's not. So it summons flickering lights, and anyone who is touched by the lights, I mean, they're centered on Rosin, but they can affect all of us if we're nearby her, gets subtle stirring of emotions, and rolls that take advantage of this emotional resonance enjoy -1 difficulty. The number of successes doesn't seem to affect it.
Sure. Tell us about the bunk you're doing. The bunk was the setting fire thing to things, right?
Which is a specific
bringing,
bunk
fireflies
for
up. Yeah.
summer as well.
Okay, there we go. I think the only person who isn't doing anything as the Khan continues counting is Rosin. Is there anything in particular that you're doing as we're moving forwards?
Or moving backwards at haste?
Mm. Yeah. I'm trying to interpret Elena's survival / courage thing. So I think Rosin's probably going to start playing her flute. And at the same time is going to be trying to cast Veiled Eyes to make... Now, originally, she was going to make everyone else seem like not as tasty a morsel as little Rosin, who is like a delectable little, like, is it cornichon? The little snacks.
An hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
However, I feel like that goes with courage. It definitely doesn't go with survival instinct.
No.
So I think she's going to try and make us all seem just like not really worth his time. Because the idea of Veiled Eyes is it doesn't make you invisible, but it makes you like not worth noticing. So I'm basically going to try and magically persuade him into just not being bothered with us, really.
Would that more be if someone isn't already counting down to the time until he eats you?
Yeah,
like is the time kind of passed for that?
That's what I was kind of.
What is it under?
It's a chicanery.
Chicanery, Veiled Eyes.
It's also against a chimera, so you're going to need like Fae 4.
It's Fae 3 for chimerical creatures, but yeah.
I think there's similar kind of things in this in other like in Vampire and stuff like that. I think it's maybe against the spirit of it to kind of make someone who's already paying attention to you.
That's right. It was yeah. That's okay.
Just to save you the glamour spend.
She is going to step back and stay next to her friends and just get ready for when he comes out of the cave.
Sure. Yeah. You're all like, obviously outside his den still, like lurking there and notably not fleeing yet.
I don't know how long all of the
it's going to take some time. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. 4, 5. You're not running. Why are you not running? This is an insult. Are we like? I would say what you're doing. Like, you're either going to have to cut it short and run, or commit to it now. You're either going to have to do a kind of half-assed job of setting and spreading this flame, or you're going to have to stand, commit to your quest, and be brave.
It doesn't need all of us. Like I get if the flames are already like there, and it is I don't know. Do you have any? What is there any sense of like roughly? I mean, are we gonna like by the end of the countdown? Is it going to be just starting to get going, or do we have a sense that by the end of the countdown, like we still won't be close?
There is already a fair bit of fire, and you are kind of going through with unleashing this, but like it kind of needs a bit of focus.
Yeah,
and the Khan isn't exactly counting slowly.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, ultimately, what I'm saying is, I don't want to break this down into actions or whatever.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, your plan is underway. Are you committing to it, or are you running? I'm giving you one last chance to choose whether to trust in your bravery and your heart, or whether to try and seek safety as fast as you can.
I mean, what would Sir Harry do?
I think we know what Sir Harry would do.
Sir Harry is A, troll, B, level 60, and C, somewhere very else.
I mean, Sir Harry is dead and not a troll, but sure.
I'm getting people mixed up again. It's a stressful situation.
So Harry was the founder of the Order of the Golden Trail.
Rhea started this cantrip. It takes focus. She's focusing on it.
I'm
The
going
others
to
can start
assume
running. But
that more fire is better for whatever Rhea is planning. So I'm going to keep burning things.
Okay, I'm not. I should flee. I'm unseelie. I'm a slewer. I should be away on the roads torturing travelers. But here I am. I'm going to. If I can have an action, I'm going to do something that isn't fleeing.
Okay.
if we do live beyond this, Rhea will probably immediately go, I should have made all of us faster rather than the fire, but we'll see if she lives to have that thought or not.
Sure. Rosin, are you carrying on your like lurking, standing by your friends behind them?
I'm going to try and help in whatever way I can. I just don't know what that would be, given that I am just like tiny. So I'll just be like
lobbing handfuls of vegetation at
yeah,
at
exactly.
fire.
Yeah. I'm just like flicking bits of burning stuff deeper in, just to like spread it out a bit.
Sure. Well, the voice from the cave has clearly had enough of your defiance of his threats. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10! And the last 10 turns into an echoing roar as Shere Khan bounds from the front of his cave, a colossal tiger rippling like a shadowed inferno in the starlight. And at that moment, Rhea, you unleash your Quicksilver. The dreaming and glamour flows through you like a raging silver torrent. Would you like to describe what that looks like, what Rhea does as it happens, and what the sense of it is? Because you are effectively sort of tapping into that primal, dark, fairy current that flows through all of you, the power to twist and rip and shape the physical world and reality to the whims of whatever beings dwell deep into the fairy realm. No pressure, but what does that look and feel like?
I guess it feels raw and hot in this particular instance, I guess. Yeah, I guess as the movement is just, I think it's just very much in sync with what is hopefully now becoming a bit of a raging inferno. And yeah, I guess like, it would just like even like the red is just like flickering even into her eyes, like the skin takes on a slightly reddish tint, like almost kind of blending almost into the fire, like there's the movement matches the swirl, and yeah, I guess just a very fierce determination and focus.
Yeah, you have a little Galadriel moment there, and the fire erupts from the patches that Elena has set and kind of roars along the around the edges of the glade, through the treetops. There's an eruption of insect and animal noise as creatures start fleeing for their lives. Shere Khan has bounced like into the center of you, and the flames kind of wash over him. He rears back with a roar. There are patches of his fur smoking and smoldering and on fire, and he's whipping around in confusion and pain, roaring, "Insufferable humans!" Ah! He seems to be in some panic and pain and not a little bit of actual terror. Now, I don't want to railroad you, but it seems like a good window to do something.
Like running real fast now, hopefully.
Is this where we're supposed to kill him, though? This is where we're supposed to kill him. This is where we're supposed to kill him.
I will say, in my interest of, the GMing or whatever, your eyes can glance down to the relatively small squire swords you have, but you go with what you feel is right.
Oh,
Yeah, Rhea was totally setting this fire to get between him and us running.
Yeah, I
that,
think
that was totally my instinct. But if Inchin like looks to the sword, yeah, I'm not going to pretend that's never going to be Rhea's instinct, even though she's probably dropped the sword and she's kind of been doing all of this.
So Ancient is not a childer. Ancient is at least spiritually mature enough to know that just because there is a beautifully well presented fairy tale ending in front of you, that if there is a slightly more sensible route through the forest, that might be the right idea. So I think...
Yeah, you think all those other knights in Barnabas's story probably thought they were going to get a fairy tale ending as well.
Yeah.
Before Shere Khan swallowed them whole.
And the thing about fairy tales, gentle readers, is happy endings are not guaranteed, not in the real ones. So yeah, I'm going to flee.
Inchin is taking to his heels. Is everyone else doing the same?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Is that everyone? Holly as well?
Oh yeah, I'm already like past the tree.
Yeah, you're just
yeah.
So I'm going to say, you know what? I was going to have you roll for making it out of the jungle ahead of the flames, but I think those rolls would be made trivial by the cantrip that John cast. So the result of that cantrip is going to be that you don't have to roll to run ahead of the flames. All of you seem to instinctively know which path to take through the jungle. Pardon me, and you're kind of following each other as well, not like just spreading out in a random direction unless you want to. You can hear the roaring fury of Shere Khan kind of fading further behind you as the flickering flames start to light up the evening sky above you and kind of ahead of you. You know, as you know, when the Millennium Falcon is kind of leaving the Death Star for the final time, and the flames are kind of, there's a little bit of that to it as the flames are all kind of catching up with you, and you dive out of the trees, out of the jungle behind you, and find yourself face down on the sort of grassland of Eden Park, and any of you who have the wherewithal to kind of clamber to your feet and look behind you, the smell of smoke still in your nostrils and the warmth of the flames on your back, you see normal parkland trees. The jungle is gone.
We must get back to the diner and help there. Our work is almost finished.
Is the van still there? Had our 15 minutes elapsed?
The van is indeed still there. Yeah, the last time. And you know what? I forgot to mention this at the time, but why don't I mention it now? Now that you've got a moment to sit and think about going back to the diner. As you left the diner, those of you, well, you know what? Let's say only one person saw it, the person with good access to the rear view mirror. So Elena, as you drove away from the diner, you saw in the rear view mirror Marshall and Menahan dueling on the roof of the diner, the sapphire blade clashing with the cold iron to produce blue and purple sparks that cascaded over the neon sign and down into the parking lot. A rather dramatic moment I probably should have described at the time, but here we are. Here we are. And as you approach the van, obviously needing to get back to that diner and seeing what on earth has happened, you see rather an odd sight. Two other people are heading towards the van at the same time as you. A van that has Edward kind of poking his head out of the side window and peering around. There is a rather old-fashioned and battered bicycle being ridden along the road over to where the van is. Barnabas is at the helm of it, and perched behind him, rather comically and hugely, is Marshall. His sword still at his side as the bicycle kind of like tips slightly from side to side as it takes really the considerable weight of the troll and the boggin on it, and it comes to a halt by the van as you approach. And Barnabas says, "Oh, thank Lord for that. Oh, look at that. You all made it."
Yeah. Yeah, with only a bit of a smell of cooked goat.
You see, I didn't.
What happened to him?
The can got him.
Oh, well, all's well that ends well. Marshall has kind of like stepped off the back of the bicycle. He's still in his diner, diner uniform. He takes the bicycle and kind of leans it carefully against the railings and sets the sapphire blade up against it, and turns around and says, "Hello,
Sir Azure?
Well, Sir Marshall, but I take your meaning."
It's an unexpected pleasure to meet you.
And the pleasure is all mine. You came to the diner. You woke me from the mists. And I got to settle some quite overdue business.
What happened to you?
Perhaps a tale for another time. Suffice to say, the dreaming was lost to me for a time.
You're aware the menagerie is loose, I trust, along with the can.
Menahan could not resist revealing his misdeeds to me to taunt me as we duelled. It will be well.
There was mention of an ally, an assailant, an emerald lord of some description.
Jade Baron? Baron of
The
Jade.
Baron of Jade, or Jade Baron.
That's close.
It is fine. Rest yourself. As he kind of holds his hand out, Barnabas has scrambled into the back of the van and says, "Oh, Brian! Oh, you need patching up." I know, Barnabas. Edward has like flopped onto the tarmac and has kind of gambled up to Marshall and says, "The Azure Knight! Sir Knight! Do you remember me? It's Edward! Eddie! Hello!" And Marshall reached down and goes, "Yes, Ed, of course I remember you. Calm down, Eddie."
He doesn't like Ed.
I know. Barnabas kind of turns away from the van and says, "I think I might take Briar to a hospital. There's some things that modern medical marvels help out with, and one is cold iron wounds. No shame in that. Not everything needs a bit of magic. But I better do that now, because she's taken a stab or two. So I'll see you all later at the castle, I hope."
I'll toss him the keys.
"Oh, thank you. Bit of a bump on the front. I saw. Don't worry about it. It'll buff right out, I'm sure."
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't me, but yeah, I'm sure it'll be all necessary in pursuit of the quest. Great good.
"I see. None of you." His eyes narrow as he looks at Edward. "It was necessary, Sir Barnabas. In the van." "Fine." He hops along, turns around and says, "Well, it was lovely to make your acquaintance. And, well, I name you honorary members of the Order of the Golden. He looks up at Barnabas, who just kind of goes, "That's not you. I'll see you soon." Eddie hops into the back of the van, and Barnabas drives it off.
Nearly got a free notional title off the back of that. That would have been handy for something.
Absolutely. Marshall kind of picks up Barnabas's bicycle and the blade from the side of the road. He seems to have a shallow cut on his arm. He looks around at you and says, "Could you just come back with me? To the diner, I mean. It'll only take a moment."
We were planning on going that way anyway.
He nods and kind of starts walking along the road. It's a bit of an odd sight, this towering troll knight in a diner uniform, a sapphire blade over one shoulder, and just kind of wheeling a little battered old bicycle next to him as he goes. "So, you fought the Khan?"
Fought is a little bit of an overestimation, but
I'd say escaped in the interest of full honesty.
We faced him and escaped from him. I thought we did quite well.
There are not many who can say they've escaped his jaws. I'd say that counts as fighting, whether the fight was with your blade or your feet.
Those kind words of consolation in a stressful moment. Thank you, sir.
What do we need to tell Lady Marcella about? Do you know her?
I do. We will tell her together tomorrow night. You kind of, the diner isn't very far away, and he's very measured in his conversation. And as he kind of wheels the bike round the corner, you can see the diner ahead of you. It looks much as it did, only the door is kind of hanging open. The lights are now off, and there is a figure sat on the steps out at the front of the diner. As you approach, it's a figure you don't recognize at first. A young man with a confused expression. He has long, lank blonde hair. He's wearing black jeans and a battered black 9-inch nail shirt. He looks like he doesn't quite understand what's happened. His features are somewhat familiar, but less graceful and beautiful than they once were.
An inauspicious end.
He looks up as you approach. "I don't know how I got here, or where I am. Do I know you? You all look quite familiar." Marshall puts the bicycle to one side. "You don't know us, Mark. Not really. Why don't you head on home? Get a fresh start in the morning." Mark, yeah. All right. Home. The mortal that was once Menahan stands up and kind of weaves his way down the nighttime street, almost as if kind of like drunk in some sense.
was that you, or did he fall on his own blade?
If he fell on his own blade, he would not be walking now. I don't take striking people down lightly. But neither did I see the need to slaughter him. Cold iron is not a mercy. And mercy is chivalry. even to those who have acted unforgivably in their madness. Sir Harry taught me that. Maybe he will remember who he was once again. I think maybe it would be a kindness if he didn't. Maybe he can find a better life as just Mark.
We all get second chances. That is the blessing of the dreaming, I suppose.
Well said. Well, thank you for everything. I have to go to the castle now and then maybe get some sleep. And then so many other things. The families of the squires, the absent knights, the lady. But I will see you all soon. You have my word. And that is still worth something, even though I have been lost in the mists. Go rest now. 2 hours until sunrise. It'll be a new day soon enough. He gives you all a gentle nod and walks up the steps to the diner, closes the door to it, and locks it shut. And that's the end of the Cincinnati Chronicles. There we go. Changeling the Dreaming arc, folks. Lovely. Yeah. If anyone's got any comments or questions, and they can be about this, the whole Changeling arc, all of Cincinnati Chronicles, where we might take some of it next, where we won't take some of it next, anything, then please do throw them in the chat. Obviously, I'm going to open the floor to my lovely players as well. And otherwise, let's get through that promo real quick. Down below, links, YouTube, Twitch, social media, Patreon, Discord. Go check those things out. 3 games a week up until now, where it's now 2 games a week. So as of next week, there'll be Warhammer on Mondays, Simbroom on Wednesdays, monthly one-shots. The next one is on Saturday, 10th of September, where we'll be playing Night of the Hogmen. Go to our YouTube if you want to check out loads of previous stuff. If you're somehow stumbling on this first, please do watch Cincinnati Chronicles from the beginning. I promise the payoffs for investing in the whole thing will probably make it worthwhile. Unless you think my writing and their playing is dog shit, in which case, probably don't bother.
That's what Monday nights are for.
Oh, shots fired across the Monday, not Monday barricade. No, they're lovely. They're wonderful. Chris is just full of hate. So there we go, folks. If we've got anything to pop up from you, John, let's do that first. Then let's turn to the players, and then we'll go back to chat if anything has popped up in the meantime. Thank you, 42. I appreciate that. Ooh. Clapping for anyone who's just listening. Steve says I'm going to ignore Chris's cruel giant.
My meaning was that if you don't like this, you can go and watch the Monday one because
that's what I took it as.
Okay. See, now that's exposed that I'm the one who's full of hate.
Yes, you're the actual.
Unless it was me specifically that you hated, in which case even Monday is not a refuge for you.
you are never.
And I'm so sorry that I exist.
Extreme. Changeling GTA edition. Yeah. I tell you what, we're going to talk about easiest and hardest to play in a bit. These last 2 sessions have definitely been the roughest from a GM perspective of the entire lot. And honestly, all I can do is blame my tiredness. I have been super tired the last few weeks, but we got there in the end. And I just want to highlight, in case for anyone who hasn't watched lots of us doing this, I want to just hammer home that my frustration was in no way due to the play, in this case, Polly, but it was in no way due to the player's actions. My frustration is with myself because I'm I've railroaded this too much and now I can't think of a way out of it because they cleverly found a way around it. So it is with me. It's not with anyone.
In fairness, the way that Mooch is written is stupid.
I
like,
think it's so overpowered.
That needs to be recognized. I was like utilizing a loophole.
Yeah, I think like if I was doing a full campaign of this, I would straight up just say nah, like because it sets a precedent. But like I think I was tempted to say nah, and then everyone got super into it, and I was like, oh, I can't deny them this.
It was
So,
so good,
I-
though.
It was really good. But I totally get it though, because
works.
I do think like the concept of like a container, like I do think it's genuinely a bit like, is something like a gas pedal or a steering wheel an object within a car, or is it part of the
Yeah.
car?
part of the car.
I-
Yeah.
But then the
would-
shoelaces thing, like
Yeah, but I guess I could have literally
that's
got
a
around it
point.
by saying shoelaces aren't attached to the shoe. The
what do you
steering
mean by
wheel.
attached?
But
Like
they are.
Nah,
like a button is
They're
attached to a jacket
threaded.
because threads are there, but and that's the
I
same
think,
as shoelace. You know, it's
like,
it's so tenuous, isn't it? It's
honestly, if I was going to shut it down going forward, I literally would just go no, because that makes it OP.
yeah, which is
And-
totally fair.
And the question mark of whether or not it's OP is down to me because I'm the GM.
Yeah.
Which I think is the intended wording, but
Yeah. But I
I
still wanted it so much, and I was like, I can't, dude. I'm already railroading too much. So it was my frustration with myself to make it clear to everyone. I think my players probably know that already. I hope, but because they've played with me before. But if anyone, I don't know. I got paranoid that I seemed like a dick. So,
I
John.
would have traditionally tried to rule it as like it can't be anything attached to something, but as Inga quite rightly pointed out, shoelaces are attached to the shoes.
Yeah, I don't like. I might almost just be tempted to like say, I know it says shoelaces, but I wouldn't allow shoelaces either. It has to be a whole coherent object. So you can do it with the shoes. You know,
Would have. Oh God! See, my second impulse would have been tried to apply the Roger Rabbit rule, which is that it only works if it's funny. But that was
And it
pretty
was
funny.
funny.
that was funny to be like gas pedal. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's totally fair. And like you said, I think there is a difference between when it's like the last episode of an arc versus like an ongoing campaign and a precedence and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if we played again and you ruled it differently, I wouldn't hold it against you.
The thing, like so much as a GM, when you're trying to resolve those situations, you're trying to wing it through in the direction you want, using the player's ignorance as a tool. And then Holly was just like, "I've studied like engines," and I was like, "Oh, for fuck." No, definitely.
Yeah, I did have obscure knowledge.
No.
Yeah.
And that's totally legitimate. And again, it's actually just feeding off, like, I've been worried all the way through this entire story it's too railroaded, because it kind of had to be a little bit to bring all those 5 strands together. So it just tapped into my my concern that I was.
And to be fair, I'd made a little ranked list in my head of the things I was going to try and steal off the car if you said no.
Fair
so
enough.
it was going to be fine.
Yeah. Also, I know we have talked about this bit before. I think there is a very big difference still between a structured story or a linear story and railroading. So
Yeah. And also, like, what we're doing here with the stream is we've talked about this sideways for a long time, but what we should do sooner or later is a stream where we really go into what it's like to stream role-playing games, and why they have to be completely differently done to if you're doing it around a table with friends. But anyway, that's massively off the topic. There's a good question coming up because I've sneaked a look at the chat. So John, why don't you pop it up for us?
I'll jump right to the end then. Is it this one?
Nope.
No, it's this one.
There we go. Steve, so I guess it has to be asked, which was your favorite arc and which was easiest or hardest to play? It's a shame Pierre isn't here for this, I guess, as our extra player. But let's just go around left to right, and I'll finish with myself because I'm the least or most important, depending on your point of view. So, John, what you can skip to the next person if you want.
I'm kind of torn between vampire, because I always love vampire, and mage, and I couldn't necessarily put my finger why on mage. I think that was maybe my favorite.
Okay. And what was? I mean, I'm assuming vampire was your easiest to play.
Vampire was the easiest.
Relatively easy, and it's what you've played before. So.
Yeah.
Hardest to play?
Oh, I
And
can't.
I mean, everyone's just going to say Wraith, right? No, okay.
I don't know. I found this quite hard because so going into Mage, I thought it would be quite difficult because figuring out the spheres and how they have to overlap to do what you want would be difficult. But once you get down to it, each individual sphere is fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
So you can kind of just figure out what spheres you need by word association. Whereas in this, it's a lot
looser.
They are looser, but also more structured to do certain things, and you have to remember what those certain conditions are for the general thing to work.
I think as well with cantrips, because like in this edition, they're definitely more powerful than they were in the first edition. And I think what I do is really emphasize the time it takes to do them, of like the bunk and stuff like that, as much as I almost feel like a bunk should be an action to itself before you can even like set them off. I don't know. But I definitely have a think about how that goes. But yeah, changing was definitely harder than I thought. I think one of the reasons Mage may have gone smoother and easier than we thought is because we put so much work and effort and emphasis on the magic and how to do it, so that by the end we were like, it was super fluid. Yeah. How about you, Inga?
I think easiest and hardest. This one was the hardest for me, I think, which is partly a mix of like the magic, and obviously I didn't do Mage, so this was like my first like real. I know there are like bits of it in other places, but like actually the stuff with the way all those kind of the arts and realms and glamour and everything kind of interacted was a bit newer for me, and that was compounded by the fact that life has been nuts at the moment, and so I definitely have had the least amount of time to like read through as much of the full rule book and everything. So I definitely have felt shakier on it, and like for the character and stuff as well, like I don't feel like I connected quite as well as like some of the other ones, so that definitely felt harder for me, I think. I don't know about the easiest. I think Vampire was a really good entry point, and I didn't find it difficult in terms of getting to grips with the system and stuff. So maybe Vampire, I guess, to some extent. I thought Werewolf was a pretty natural, there wasn't too much extra weird stuff to kind of pick up for that. It felt quite, again, like an easy transfer for the next one. So yeah, maybe kind of those two. I honestly don't know about favorite arc because I really don't know. I think favorite arc and favorite system wouldn't necessarily be the same.
Sure.
Thing
Yeah.
Because I mean, I wasn't in it, but I enjoyed watching the Mage arc. Like Vampire was great just because kind of starting to get to know all the world and the characters and everything, and I really quite liked a lot of the Werewolf kind of the ontology behind all of that, and some of the in a way that I didn't necessarily expect to. And Wraith I just thought was super interesting as a system. I actually really enjoyed the kind of the playing the shadows and all that kind of stuff.
I was shocked how well Wraith went.
I really liked elements. I think I felt a little bit more lost with Wraith in terms of the story. Like I think in terms of storyline arc, I think I did prefer the Wraith and Vampire and Werewolf and some of the, and this one actually I really loved the story of this one. I just didn't find it as easy to actually connect with and play. But I think that's really hard in Wraith because especially with only so few episodes. But I actually really loved playing it. Everything and nothing.
Sure. Chris, what was your favorite arc and why was it Werewolf?
Well, you called it Werewolf, like slipping on old familiar coat sewn together from the corpses of Garu that I've slain in order to complete my Prothean rite of the Skin Changers.
That's a reference.
It's a reference. Hardest, I was dreading going into Wraith because I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of the conceit. It's miserable, it's sad, and on top of all that, it's difficult, and on top of all that, it is impossibly dense in terms of its lore. But I had a good time at it. So yeah, in terms of favorite arc, I don't know. I hate being a child of my own bias, but once again, just Werewolf, for completely metatextual reasons, has been a joy to return to, and I hope I get a chance to play it again.
Yeah, fair enough. Holly, as well, the second World of Darkness noob in this group here, including Inga as well, pointing at Chris. Inga, yeah.
I reckon in terms of easiest, probably tie between Vampire and Werewolf. Fairly simple to get to grips with.
Yeah.
Hardest was definitely this. The cantrips, weirdly specific.
Yeah.
It's hard, but I did really enjoy it. So in terms of my favorite ones, probably Werewolf or Changeling.
Nice. I know. Yeah, the cantrips, they're weirdly specific, but also annoyingly open-ended.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like they really constrict what you can do with them, but then also don't in certain ways.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure that in the original edition, you spent glamour for every cantrip.
That makes a lot more sense to me to do it that way.
It does,
because I spent 1 glamour that entire time.
Because I think that the idea is that because they're so specific, I think what they did was they went, oh, they're really specific, so you might not use them all the time. So they shouldn't cost glamour, because then you can take advantage of it. Because otherwise you're too weak, and it's like Changeling should be weak. Changeling should be relatively weak. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but
I was surprised that there was no cost to so many of them. Really, I mean, there is for some of them, and you've still got to succeed for some of them. But even then, for some of them, you don't even the successes are barely relevant. No, crazy.
Completely.
I also found, again, talking about the difference between the magic systems, or the similarity in the magic systems between Changeling and Mage, I found coming up with interesting bunks a lot harder than doing whatever the basically same thing for Mage is called.
The focus and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I get you. So for me, the easiest to run was Vampire, because it's in my DNA. At this point, the hardest was, I thought that would be Wraith or Mage, but it was Changeling. And I think, again, I would actually attribute that to the same reasons that Inga said, that I didn't have as much time to prep. And I didn't put as much effort into that. I was so worried about Mage and Wraith that I did so much prep that they went quite smoothly. And then Changeling I took lightly. And here we are. It was the hardest to run. As for my favorite arc, I would say that from an authorial standpoint, Vampire was actually super fun, because it was just setting it all off and planting the seeds for later was really satisfying. And because I know the system and the setting so well, I felt like everything went perfectly. So that was really good. And the other one would be Mage, because Mage in a meta anthology was the meta arc that tied it all together. And I loved the conceit that I had of tying everything together and explaining everything in the middle installment, not the last installment. And therefore setting up, foreshadowing a load of other stuff later.
I love
really
that.
So,
by the way, I loved how we had, Vampire was actually kind of towards the end of the timeline. Remember, actually, and then it would have, or it wasn't quite the end, right? It was because it was evening.
Well, there's actually a comment. Can you flash up the comment to do with that? The 42 one that you've posted there. Where in the timeline is this? Is the diner full of dead bodies right now? Well, folks, have I got a treat for you?
Do you have a graphic?
Oh God, it's a spreadsheet, isn't it?
Yes, I love a good bit of Excel work. This is my jam.
Some of these might be wrong, because these are my initial notes, or notes as I was working on things. But here is the 24-hour cycle of Cincinnati Chronicles. So, God, fucking Excel. Sorry. So to use... let's answer 42's question first. So Changeling ended here. It is actually, is that right? No, there's just nothing for that. Yeah. As Marshall closed the door on the diner, Elysium was taking place, the scene at Elysium for Vampire. Wraith had already finished. Wraith finished at midnight. Werewolf had been finished for hours, and Mage had yet to begin, obviously. You know the two most useful things I placed on this? Sunrise and sunset, which are the actual sunrise and sunset times for July in 1995 in Cincinnati, just in case anyone was wondering.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but going back from the beginning, obviously the werewolf is the earliest one. Started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the van broke down, and then all the way through to here, and then here is right. So to answer your question, 42, yes, as this episode ended, the bodies had been in the gas station for the last 5 hours. So there we go. Because if we think about it, you got to the park just as the rant was ending. And I wouldn't have been able to do little cross things like that with comfort unless I had this.
Unless what 42 is asking is about the diner following the Azur and Menahan's fight. In which case, no, because the only dead body ended up walking
gas
away.
Station, not diner. Is the diner full of dead bodies right now? Oh, I see what you mean. The diner is never full of dead bodies, right?
No.
Yep, that is the case. The fight between Menahan and
That's
the
gas
Azure Knight
station,
was bloodless, or at least non-magical bloodless.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Azure Knight just got a bit of a cut on his arm. That was the only actual physical damage.
But it does mean Marshall's got a little bit of tidying up to do before Mage starts.
Yeah,
he does, and he does that successfully. The window's still broken. Let's just say the Mage just didn't notice that.
That's fine.
But do you remember his boss saying to him, "You were up on the roof again last night"?
I know. That's that. I kind of spotted that. I was like, "Wow, the roof!"
Or on the security cameras, or someone told him. Whatever. It's all good.
Remember, we were going to check out the roof as well, and you steered us away from that.
And Marshall was quite peacefully sleeping in the car. He'd had a busy night.
And and before he'd walked in, just now, he'd been sitting on the hood of his car reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was, cool.
Yeah, he was coming to the end of it. He that was a bit off his shift. That was his break. So he was out there. Yep. There we go. That's the timeline anyway, if anyone's interested.
I am slightly worried. We may have made a slight time paradox.
No.
Because the Mage characters visit the jungle and it's not burnt down. But it's a magical jungle, so it's fine. They don't
visit the jungle. Chris's character was looking through a magical thing that had... I don't consider that to be.
Cool.
It was only Chris's character who saw the jungle. And the
magical umbral jungle, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Awesome. It could be echoes from the past or of the sense of it. I'm not too bothered about that, honestly. No, I'm not too bothered about that. So obviously, I guess we got another reference for the villain's title in this one.
Jade Baron.
Green again, right? So set up that. There was usually at the end of arcs I go through lots of references and stuff. A lot of the references in this were just things we explained earlier: the Knights of the Golden Trail, Loveland Castle. These are all real things. The Bicycle Card Factory, which is another Cincinnati thing. People have noted this before. Yes, the reason I chose Shere Khan as the storybook thing taken is a Cincinnati Bengals reference. I wanted a tiger. Anything seems weird. The Wizard did it. Absolutely. Paradox. Yeah, it's Paradox. Yep. Whatever. The red flower is from the Jungle Book. Shere Khan is scared of fire. He calls it the red flower. Obviously, he called you cubs. Another ref, blah blah blah. And we already know we know who the 52nd card is, right? Referred to himself as the Knave of Clubs. Would anyone like a couple of nerdy things from that referenced?
Is the Knave of Club... Is it a wrestling reference?
No, not in the slightest.
Okay.
I mean, lots of things I do are, so that's fair. But would anyone like to take a stab at where what the name Menahan is another language's name for a character in mythology? If we take Sir Harry as a paragon knightly figure, and Menahan is his treacherous descendant.
Are we? Is this going to be King Arthur stuff? That's
yeah.
I'm trying to remember all of the.
Menahan is an original name for Mordred.
Mordred, that's
very
right.
Who is Arthur's son rather than his grandson, but still.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things, though, the Knave of Clubs. If you're wondering why Menahan chose that as his title, playing cards back in a few centuries ago, the face cards were often modeled after historical or mythological people, like they would be drawn to represent them. And there are two historical or mythological people who the Knave of Clubs is typically modeled after, two very contradictory individuals, both represented in Menahan, Lancelot and Judas Iscariot. Menahan saw himself as both.
Interesting.
And that's why he called himself the Knave of Clubs. Knave being the old word for Jack, obviously.
That's a lot of work for something that you had to explain in postscript.
And that's the joy of it, Chris. That's the joy of it. So
that is an interesting pair.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I read that, I was trying to look for what, I wanted him to call himself after a face card, probably a knave, because he's a knave. And then I saw that those two were the name of the club, and I was like, literally perfect. That's just his character. He's a treacherous knight. So there we go. And also Marshall being the Azure Knight was a very nerdy reference that I suppose anyone could technically have gotten right from the beginning. The most famous Marshall in history is probably Sir William Marshall, who is known as the Perfect Knight, who was a character in history in Britain, who was the paragon of chivalry and was held up for centuries afterwards as the Perfect Knight.
I just still love the fact that one of the first roles I did in Werewolf was Umbral Peak at Marshall, and saw the sparkles, and I was like, I know immediately, because I've been playing this game for too long.
Yeah,
that guy's a changeling.
Sparkly
I'll
aura
see you later.
Yeah, absolutely. Cincinnati Chronicles, folks. We hope you enjoyed that. Will they return? Who knows? Yes. I can exclusively reveal there is a 6th arc of Cincinnati Chronicles. You're going to have to wait a while for it. It'll probably be at least 6 months. I won't go into should I go into the conceit of it, or should it be a surprise for people? See, it could be exciting
Keep it
to
as
know,
a surprise, but I think everyone can guess.
Possibly. 6 months down the line or so, we will do a 6th arc of Cincinnati Chronicles. I'm also thinking of doing some kind of rough spin-off of Vampire the Dark Ages, because people on the Discord have been hammering after Vampire the Dark Ages for a while. It won't be a direct prequel or anything, because I'm not sure how many of the vampires would be alive in the Dark Ages, but it'll be in some way thematically related to Cincinnati Chronicles if it happens. So that might be a one-shot rather than a series. Are you going to put the timeline on Discord? I certainly can do 42. I'll have to put it behind some kind of spoiler thing. I can like just link to it on Dropbox or something like that. But yeah, sure, I will do.
I think you can spoiler tag images.
Yeah, you can just spoiler tag.
Oh, can you? Okay, yeah, I'll do that. People remind me if I forget, because I will forget. But yeah, cool. All right, this is one of our later running streams by this time, and everyone wants to go to bed. So thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Chronicles. Thank you to my wonderful players for putting up with this. It's been quite an intense series of games to play in. Their patience and their enthusiasm has been massively helpful. The same obviously also goes to Pierre, who was our missing link in Changeling, because everyone's missed one arc. Yeah, thank you everyone. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you out there soon. Goodbye.